and we're here on Joico's Instagram. My name is Brandon Corbett. I'm a Joico Master Artist, and we're so excited to be here today. And I have my live model for you here. This is Miss Kate, and she is a cosmetology student that we got, so she's also a model and learning today. So I'm gonna wait for a few of you to come on, but put in the chat where you're from. We're gonna be teaching all about balayage today and how to do no tease highlighting. So I'm gonna show you how to create balayage with seamless flow like this without having to do any tease. And nothing against the teasing. I'm not a tease queen, just a queen, but I like to be able to hand paint without having to comb it all out. It's a little bit difficult for me to comb it all out. Sometimes I feel it also like hurts the clients a little bit too. So I want to show you a very effortless way and a different way to put in balayage pieces within here. So with my model Kate, also in the chat, not only tell me where you're from, if there's any questions, we have our beautiful Lindsay behind the camera who's going to be filming for us today, and she'll ask the questions for you. So don't be afraid to put your questions in there. We'll have all the befores and afters on my Instagram, which is Brandon Corbett Hair, and on Joico's Instagram as well. So let's talk about our model and where she was at. So she's a beauty school student, and we all remember being in beauty school and how often we would color our hair. So I really talked to her about her history, and she was red, she was blonde, she was brunette, and we kind of have this faded out color. She had about an inch of regrowth, and I've went through already and applied her base color. Her base color, we're using our LumiShine Permanent. When I was talking to her, I asked her, I was like, I didn't want to do the typical balayage of like cools. I'm really into warms right now, and I feel like warm colors are really coming back. So I wanted to give her this cinnamon russet summer fun, fabulous balayage. So I just wanted to give her a lot of richness to her. Her skin, her eye color, everything really complements it, and she had red before. So with her base, I'm going to be using 5 NRG plus 5 NW from our LumiShine, and I'm mixing those together. I always like to do a custom mix. I'm not looking for fire engine red, so I mixed the NW Natural Warm and NRG Natural Red Gold together. I wanted to create more natural looking red tones in here. Think more Jessica Chastain than like a Phoenix Fire red. So I wanted to add depth, and I knew with my balayage, we're not going to be going right to the root. I want to do a lot of lived in color, but create a lot of impact. So my formulas I'm going to be using is that for her base, and then I'm going to do a baby light with our balayage, or with our Blonde Life Lightening Powder and 5 volume. The reason I'm doing 5 volume is she had some previous color in here, and we're going warm. So I don't need to lift her all the way up to level 10, and I want to expose the warmth that's here. We're also going to be doing a little bit slower application because we're doing live today, and I'm doing balayage. So because I'm going slower, I'm going to drop my volumes to maintain the integrity of her hair. I don't need to mix 20 volume or 30 volume with her baby light. It's already going to get her there. She's already about a level 7 right now from her previous color, and it's faded. So I'm not looking to really lift it up a ton. So that's why I did 5 volume with our lightning powder. My next volume or formula I'm using is our brand new Blonde Life Balayage Powder. I'm so obsessed with this balayage powder. If you haven't used it, comes in looking like this, and this is our new clay-based powder lightener. Okay, and with our balayage powder, it is powered with Blonde Life. So you don't need to mix Blonde Life into it. This will give you up to 7+ levels of lift. And what I love so much is the consistency. You can mix this 1-to-1 or 1-to-2. So if you see here, this has a beautiful consistency for doing balayage. Where I put it is where it stays. I like to mix mine to about a 1 to 1.5. I don't like a 1-to-2 personally, and 1-to-1 slightly too thick just for her hair. But this is about a 1 to 1.5. And this is mixed with our 20 volume new coconut oil developer from Blonde Life. So in Blonde Life, we do have 3 developers. We have 520 and a 40, and these are formulated with coconut oil. Coconut oil is all about hydration, and it is the lightest hydration that there is. So we're gonna be putting moisture back into the hair, because what is blonding? It's the most dehydrating process that we do. So what I love about our new coconut oil developer is it's gonna add that moisturization back in as I do the lifting process. We are gonna do a toner, a gloss on her at the very end, and that's gonna be 8RR plus 7NC plus 9NWB Demi-Liquid from LumiShine. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. I'm gonna show you a few different techniques and what I like to do for my balayage. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is section her out, and then I'll talk about my paddle and how I like to load that up.
Real quick, can you say again your root formula?
Yes, of course. So my root formula is from LumiShine Permanent, and that's going to be 5NRG plus 5NW with 10 volume. And the reason I'm using 10 volume is I'm not looking for tons of lift. I'm looking for about just one level of lift with her, so I don't need to use 20 or 30 or 40 with her base color. All right, so when I section, I'm just gonna show you how I like to section. Just 1 second. So the way that I like to section is her head shape is not curved. So I like to think about head shape, and I really wanna tailor fit this color into her. So I'm gonna go around where her crown is, which is right here, and then I'm going to curve into her ear. And the reason that I'm curving is I don't want to fit this color into her head shape. All right, the head shape is not straight. So a lot of times when I'm doing my sectioning, I work on curves. And what that allows me to do is to put color in without the fear of getting lines. If you don't want lines in the hair, don't section with lines. That's what I like to do a lot. And with her already having layers in here, I'm not gonna be working on straight lines either. So a few insurance policies so you don't get any lines in the hair. One, cut the hair first and see where your layers fall at. That way, the cut is gonna guide your color. If you would put the color in here first, you're one, wasting the color, you're gonna be cutting it out. Your placement might be really low, and then you put layers in and then you cut out what you just did. So when you're doing color like this, I highly suggest to cut the hair first. So that's gonna help me guide where the color is being placed at. So I like to shake it up, look at it, see where it lies at so I know where to place the color. Her layers are all sitting in around here. So I know I don't wanna go do any horizontals. By taking these curves in here, I'm gonna be working up the head in a curvature. That way the color lays in like this, not like this. Therefore, I don't have to worry about any lines in the head. The other thing that I'm going to do is I like to start and be really inspired by my client's neck shape. Some people have like the W neck, some people have really indented, some have a lot of baby hairs. So when I'm doing this type of color, talk to your client and ask them, do you wear your hair up a lot? No. Okay, she does not, but if she was someone that was at the gym a lot, my first placement would change. And the reason that would change is if her hair's up a lot and you have all this blonde up here, this would be dark. So what I would do, instead of painting on top of the surface, I would paint under the surface for my first section. Therefore, when she puts her hair up, she looks cohesive all around. So definitely talk to your clients about their lifestyle and how they like to wear their hair, because that'll help dictate where your first placement goes. So I'm gonna work with her nape here, and I'm working in a curve. So I'm gonna fit this right into this area here. And what I do is I talk to my client and I tell them, I'm fitting your color into your neck shape. This is gonna be tailor-fitted color. And that's the way that I like to talk to my clients. So that it makes them feel special, it makes them know that I'm taking into consideration all the things. Skin color, eye color, hair type, texture, her history, how she wears her hair, her density, everything that makes up her, I'm gonna fit this color into her that way. So I'm gonna start with my balayage. And what I like to do is I take my board, this is our Joico balayage paddle, and I think of it like icing a cake. And you see this stays exactly where it is, okay? And I load up my board. Now this only goes to my bowl, and then I will have a separate brush that is only for here to the hair, so it keeps everything nice and clean. And then I also like to work with a damp towel to wipe it off with. Okay, any questions coming in? Okay, all right, so what I'm gonna do first, just gonna turn her a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first, when I look at this, you can do a base color and a highlight at the same time. This will process and then just stop working. So we already went through and already did that because I know I'm not gonna be taking this color up here. I wanna make it live and really add the highlights in this area. You can see she has some natural texture in here, and that's what I wanna accentuate. I wanna accentuate this natural texture that's going on in here. So I take a look at it, I see where it falls, and really get inspired. So I'm going to take my product, I'm gonna make a bead, and instead of starting up here, I don't wanna start there, we already have product. I'm gonna start just below where I wanna apply it. I'm holding this nice and taut. We have 3 zones, zone 1, 2, 3. Wherever zone I'm working in, I'm going to hold this nice and taut because this gives me control. If I'm down here, all these flyaways and her layers could really mess up my color. So tip for you, whenever you're working in a section with balayage, hold it nice and tight. This hand's not gonna move until I move down, move down, move down. And then my board stays here. Okay, so I'm gonna take my bead and I'm gonna just start working there. See how great this product just glides onto the hair? Okay, and the reason that I don't have to tease the hair to create a seamless flow is 1, I'm using our balayage powder that is going to create that flow because of the way that I apply it. 2 is my application. I'm keeping everything nice and smooth, nice and smooth. So now I'm going to apply this in a nice and smooth way. I'm not working up the head. I'm going with the cuticle, okay? The next insurance policy that allows this to not have to be teased is I'm working on curves and an angle. So I'm holding the hair out this way. This is not the way hair lays. Hair lays this way. So you see it's automatically going to take any lines away because this hair is on an angle. So that's what allows me to not have to tease the hair to create a tease looking effect. So you see, when I put it on, the moment I put it on, it's done. I don't have to keep going up and go in this way, in this way. Once it's up there, it's done. Okay, and with balayage, which is the French word to sweep, we're just surface painting. If we look underneath, there's no color under there. Okay, we're just looking to do surface painting. I want to create a lived-in effect on here, a glow. Now I'm going to take my product, put it under here to hold the hair. This becomes a glue, and we saturate. So a few tips when it comes to saturation. This product, you want to glide the product on. I'm not pushing in. If you see, I hold my brush like this. It's this motion. I'm not using my wrist. So when I pick up my product and I glide it on. Pick up product, glide. It creates a dance. If you're doing this, okay, like we're applying regular color, you see how it indents, okay? That creates hollow points or holidays. So see how saturated that is versus this? You want to make sure that your saturation is even and consistent from head to toe. So
do you have any tips for keeping the lightener from bleeding underneath?
Yes, so tip for keeping the lightener bleeding underneath. 1, it's the lightener that I'm using. So this lightener does not transfer from section to section, all right? That's what's great about our balayage powder. I don't need to separate with foil or mesh, but I like to. So I'm using a balayage film. I like to use the one from Product Club. And this is literally just to protect the hair. But if you see, I just lay it on and it's done. I don't have to mess with folding, with foils, nothing like that. So with our brand new balayage powder, you don't have to worry about transfer. It's not going to transfer. The only time that it would transfer is if your product is too viscous, if you put too much developer in it. So you don't have to worry about that. That's the nice thing. It's already built in that it doesn't transfer. The only time that it would transfer is if you put just too much developer in your formula. I know every single person does it. I've even done it. I really highly recommend that you measure your lightener. Few reasons. One, if you have to go get more and you made this thick, but you mixed up more and in this area, it's a little bit looser, okay? In the world of lightener, thicker is quicker. So thicker the consistency, the faster it's gonna work. So you can speed something up or down without even changing your volume. So if you have one consistency here and a different consistency here, your lift isn't gonna be even. So that's the number one reason to always measure your lighteners is for consistency in your lift globally. The other reason that you wanna do it is just for product waste. With our balayage powder, you're highly recommend to measure it. You're going to mix it up and you're gonna look at it and think, oh my God, it looks a little too dry. It has this point, fully mix it, that it all comes together. It has a finer powder than a regular lightener. So I really suggest mix it up fully first before you add any more developer, any more powder, because it really has this threshold that everything comes together. So that's why I always mix it. So if you mix it to the right consistency, you don't have to worry about doing any transfer. So now what I'm going to do, good question. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change up my angle. And what I'm doing is I'm doing curved angles, curved angles, curved angles. And what that's going to do is another insurance policy, because each of these are going to lay over one another, creating a color blend effect without having to tease. So I'm going to go right in here. I'm going to take a curved parting. Okay, some are narrow, some are wide and sassy. It just depends on how the hair is speaking to me. It's one of those things, we're all hairdressers, we know it happens. We're like, what do you want to be? We let the hair speak to us. Now, what I like to do sometimes, just for depth, and I'm not looking to highlight everything, I'll go in and just drop a veil. Drop some of that hair. This is very personalized color, so you don't have to do the same thing. This isn't paint by numbers. I'm really personalizing this each and every strand as I work along. So I have my strand out. I'm gonna take my board. I'm going to load up product. Okay. This also keeps everything nice and organized. All right. So I have my section here. Okay. I'm going to take my product, and now I want to have a little bit more depth because this goes up high right here. So I'm looking at what's beside and how I can create a lift-in effect. I'm actually going to go down into zone 2 and start my application right here. Not everything has to go root to end. Not everything has to go end to root. So I'm actually only going to do a slash on one side instead of a V. Okay. So another insurance policy for you is to change up your application. Sometimes I'll do slashes, sometimes I'll do V's, sometimes I'll do a triple point. It just depends on the effect that I'm looking to create. And I want to create a seamless color effect with highlights, but it doesn't look like stripes. And I also don't want to have to tease the hair. So if you see, I'm going to pick up product and I'm going to glide it on. This is a slow motion. Pick up product, glide it on. You see, I'm not really pressing hard. Pick up product, glide it on. Pick up product, glide it on. Repeat, just to make sure your saturation is even. This really comes down to the pressure of your hand. Then with my board, I can lift up, see if there's any lines. There's no lines. I can lay this down, put on my balayage film, because I did the base color, I can let that stick right there and put that in between, and that just protects it. The other thing that that does is it also protects the client, and it doesn't have like a big mess everywhere. All right. So now I'm gonna do a baby light, and I'm gonna do that with our lightning powder. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you my circle weave technique now. So I'm gonna go in here and take another curve. Okay, and I'm just looking to add a baby light into here. So with my circle weave technique, I created this because I thought about this in a dream actually. I thought about how can I create a weave that's more lived in that actually saves our hand motion because we're hairdressers. I've been a hairdresser for 18 years now. I probably have about 57 to go because I love what I do and probably will never retire. So I want to preserve my hands. And I also think about efficiency. And efficiency should not take away from quality. So I thought about how can I make this efficient but not take away from quality. So in a typical weave, and again, this is just an outside box way of thinking. This is not to say the way weaves are being done is wrong. We still do that way, same with me. But this is just a different way of thinking. So in a typical weave, you'll take the hair, maybe section it out. You'll take and do lines, okay? And what that does, and then you have to pull down, comb it, and you can see here's 4 individual lines. And this can create chunkiness or lines in the hair. And I thought about how can I create a way that it looks a bit more organic looking. So I'm gonna show that to you right now. So I'm gonna spin her here. So the way that this is done, I'll have Linda come in close. So we have our base color on. I'll take this and I use this like a pen, all right? I'm gonna have my fingers right here like a pen. So instead of going in and scooping up like this, and this can be quite agitating on your wrist. A lot of hairdressers get carpal tunnel surgery or just get carpal tunnel and suffer with it. This saves from this motion. It also saves on having to do an extra step. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna circle underneath, not up top because it'll take the above section. So I'm gonna circle underneath. So I'm gonna put my comb here and I'm going to circle around that edge. And I'm outlining that area. Then I take it and now look, this created this weave. We can see thick, fine weave slice here. And it creates a very organic, natural looking section versus if I would take this, even if I did fine weaves, this is still lines and they're pretty chunky. So instead you get this. So that's my circle weave technique and I'm gonna do a baby light with her hair. And what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna take my Blonde Life. I'm not going all the way up. I'm not going to cross-contaminate. I'm just gonna surface paint. Because I'm using a fine section, I could use a foil if I wanted to. I could use saran, which I'm going to. But just another way to do a baby light. Okay. And that's gonna be an organic, lived-in baby light right there. Okay, I'm gonna take my saran, my balayage film, lay that right there. And the nice thing with using this is you can just lay it on and it's done. You don't have to worry about folding, anything like this. I like the product cover one because it is already perforated for me, so I don't even need to mess with it. And the other thing with using balayage film is versus saran wrap. Saran is meant to compact. It's heat activated. So where do we get heat? From our scalp. So with balayage film, though it looks the same, it's not one of those things to cut corners on because it is different than saran. This doesn't stick, it doesn't compact, and it's not heat activating. So it is a different type of plastic. So again, I'm gonna go in and look, I'm working off of that curve and I'm taking a curved section. See there? So this has some depth to it. This is gonna be an oomph piece. Any questions?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right, for those of us just joining, welcome. My name is Brandon. I'm doing a no tease balayage application. And the way that I'm doing that is with 3 different formulas. I have my base formula, a baby light formula, and then my balayage formula. And then we're gonna gloss all of her when we're done. So I'm working up the head in different angles and curvatures because the head is curved and I'm working to the curve of her head. And if we see there, this is where this lays. My other one went all the way down. So this is gonna live in this area. So as I work up, it ebbs and flows and it goes in this way, working up the head. And all these different curves because the head has a curved shape. So I'm going to take my board. This is my balayage powder. I'm gonna load this up. Make a little reservoir. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go in here. And now we're working up a little bit higher to the head. So I want to add a little bit more depth here because we're going to have a highlight up here. So I'm thinking about where we're getting in the head. So I want to add some depth here. So I'm actually going to pull this hair nice and taut, and I'm going to work in zone 2. When we're working with zones, we have zone 1, which is around this area, the regrowth. Zone 2 being your mids, and then zone 3 being your ends. So I'm going to hold this here a little bit below zone 2. And I'm going to paint. See how nice that product just glides onto the hair? Paint here. I'm going to do a 2-point here. Okay. And you have something called conversion points, and that's where those two blend together. Your conversion point should really be determined by how much brightness that you want. If you don't want as much brightness and you want to pull these down, your conversion point should be down here. You want more lightness, have your conversion point where these two meet a little bit higher.
Why are you doing a V on this section?
Good question. So why am I doing a V on this section? I want to have a little bit more depth because the previous one was just a slash. So I want more brightness in this area, which is why I'm doing a V. So I'm always looking at the hair, what's below it, what's above it, and what's my next step. And that'll determine where I want to go artistically. So I hope that answered your question. So picking up product, gliding it on, picking up product, gliding it on, picking up product, gliding it on. It's a dance. You want to make sure that it's saturated. With our clay lightener, this is not something that you want to make sure that you're blending a little bit out, make sure it blends. If you don't have enough product in there, it actually will not work. All right? So don't be afraid to really saturate. If it doesn't look saturated, it's just not gonna do its job. So you're gonna do all that work just for nothing. So one thing with our balayage powder, make sure you're fully saturated. Okay, I'm gonna take my balayage film, and all I'm doing is just laying it on there, tucking it in, and that's it. Literally just keep everything nice and neat, and this won't transfer to anything. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now, I'm just gonna change up my angle again. Now I'm gonna do a little tiny narrow piece, and I have a rounded piece right here, making sure everything is rounded and not flat. Okay, now I know it looks like I'm actually going to go down this way. We're actually going to be working on this side and here, right? So keeping everything angular.
Oh, someone just saw you in Raleigh on Monday.
Hi! We had a great show, didn't we? All right, so my circle weave technique. So I'm going to take my comb, and this is the motion that I'm doing. Motion that I'm doing, motion that I'm doing. I'm going to outline this circle here. I'm not going this way, I'm going outlining the circle. So I'm going to put my comb here and look, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, work all the way down. And here is my section in that curve side. So you see how it makes a more organic lived in instead of like chunky lines. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my Blonde Life this is my lightening powder with 5 volume, and I'm just going to saturate this section here. Not touching that area here, because that's where there's color already. We're just looking to make a little baby light, a little glow. I'm gonna take my film. I'll tell you, once you get the use of this film, you'll know where to tear it right away because you just get used to it. It's about a foot apart. So we're gonna let that lay there and done. The other nice thing about this versus using like foils, and I foil all day long, but I love using the balayage film. I can come and take this and just pull it right out, and it just glides right out. Now, because I'm teaching This takes a little bit longer, but this technique, really, I could get this whole application done in about 45 minutes or less in the salon. Her base color, about 10 minutes. So her entire application can be done in about under an hour, about 55 minutes total. And I would block out about 3 hours for her because I'm gonna do her haircut first, dry her hair, not like a round brush dry, but just get it dry. And then I'll apply her base color, do all her dimensional work, process her. Since this is already processed, this is practically done already, I'm just waiting to see this get the lift that I'm looking for. Again, we're looking to make her naturally looking red, but like luxurious, rich red. We want this to look like expensive red. So we're gonna process her probably total about 45 minutes or less, see how her hair reacts. This is my first time with her, so we'll watch it. This is something I'm not gonna walk away from. And then we would rinse her, do her gloss and her treatment.
Couple questions for you. How long, I think you just kind of answered that. How long do all these process, as this is already be a long time on my fine hair?
So for fine hair, this would take me even less. This is only because we're teaching that it's a slower process. In the salon, I could do this entire head application and the dimensional work, I could do that entire work in about 45 minutes or less. Perfect. On her hair.
Another one, I joined late. Can you explain why you're using 2 lighteners?
Yes, so one I'm using to balayage, and that's gonna be her higher lift, and one I'm using just to create a baby light that's just a little bit of a glow, a tinsel. So that's a lower developer, and that's with our Blonde Life, and it's only with 5 volume. So I'm just looking just to add a little bit of glow in a baby light, which is why. So here I'm just doing a slash because I want to create some depth right in here. The nice thing with our balayage powder is if you see a mistake, it's kind of like TSA. If you see something, say something. So say I was applying this and I kind of got a little messy and you see that mess right there. I can go through with my fingers because it's not going to process that fast. I can wipe that away with my fingers and just clean that up. So when you're working, if you see like just a little bit of a spot, don't be afraid just to wipe it off. This is not your typical lightener. It's not going to process as fast as our Blonde Life lightning powder. In a clay lightener, it's a slower process. But what I love about this is you're going to get 7+ levels of lift, because this is powered with our Blonde Life technology. So if you're someone that likes to mix and match different lighteners, you don't have to do that. We already powered it with Blonde Life for you. So just apply that. And then I'm going to go through. We're almost done with this back section, and then I'm going to show you the front. Okay, so we're in our last section here. So we're in the top. And what I want to do is I want to have depth and highlight. So this last section, we went a little bit lower and we just did a slash because I want to have more brightness on this surface area here. So I'm actually going to take out the middle, this middle area here, dropping a veil for depth. So we're going to leave that, okay? And this is what I'm going to paint here. So again, I'm going to load up my board. This is Blonde Life Balayage Powder with 20 volume. Has a great consistency. I mix mine in a 1 to 1.5 ratio. So when you're doing this, hold this out where you pulled the section from. The hair lives this way, but I'm looking to create blend and without having to tease the hair. So the way that I do this is by taking different angles. So I'm gonna hold the hair out this way, and I'm actually gonna start a 3-point here. So I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna add 1 point there, I'm gonna add 1 point there, and 1 point on the side. And that's because I'm looking to add brightness. I want to have more brightness in this area. So So I'm going to pull my fingers down and continue my 3-point. And then because I want to add more brightness, I'm going to have my conversion point pretty high up, right there. And with my board being right beside my hand, I can come in, take a bead, paint, take a bead, paint. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, attach it like a glue, lay it in the board, and then I can take product, glide it on, take product, glide it on. I'll tell you, the first time I started doing this, I was like, whoa, that's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. This really comes down to tension and a very gentle application with your hand. You see, I'm not pressing in. That's pressing in. I'm gliding on. So what I suggest is take that mannequin. I still practice with mannequins all the time. And the first time I did this, I went home and I did 9 mannequins right away. So I could really get that tension and that pressure down. Okay, lift up, look under here. If there was a line, you can lift this up and you can blur it out with your brush. It's a great thing about using a board. So then I'll just lay this down. And then to protect and incubate, I'll use my balayage film. Lay that there, tuck that in. Okay, now typically what I would do is I would then go to this side and do this side over here. You can, if you practice and get skilled enough, you can do rocking, so you can do side by side by side by side. That's another way that you can do this. I like to work up the head one side, work up the head on the other side. Sometimes I will go back and forth, but I always work in the back because if this is done processing, I'll take this out and rinse this first. So you can do back and forth if you want, or just work up one side and do the other side. I'm gonna work into the front now so you can see how I would do the front area. Okay, now let's take a look at what we have here. So we already have her base color on, and she has a fringe area there. She has a lot of layers going on in here. So before going in, just take a look at what's going on. You know you cut it already, so I'm just looking at the movement and what inspires me. This piece of hair right here inspires me, this length in this area. Also, you can be a plastic surgeon, right? That's the cool thing about being a colorist is, we can create effects that we can hide or enhance just based on the theory of color. So if this were my client and she had fine hair, she doesn't, she has a really good amount of hair, but if she were to have fine hair and I wanted to make it look like she was thicker, this area here, don't highlight at the root area. Keep your highlights about shoulder area, because when this lays down, if this is later on top of here and this is dark, this creates depth. This will make the hair look thicker. But if you go in and did baby lights in here, or even just highlights in this area right by the ear, it highlights that she's fine. So I would keep this dark about to here and just only have highlights down here. And that depth is a way to make someone's hair look thicker when they don't really have thick hair. So if you want, keep this area from like ears to shoulders. Keep this dark in this area and your highlights on the top or on the bottom as a way to create effects with color. So what I'm now gonna do is I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna be inspired again by her hairline. So I'm gonna go in this area, and if you see, I'm taking a curve. Now if we see, because she's in beauty school, this is shorter than this, and that's just because of some previous breakage. So I'm gonna make sure this area we're very gentle with. We're just gonna highlight in this area here. I'm gonna have face framing up in this area, but not here, just because the hair is a little more fragile. So when you're going through, make sure you talk to your client, see what their color history is, but also touch the hair and see what their hair history is as you go along. So I can see this hair is a little bit different in its tenacity versus this hair here. I can see that just by looking at it, and it's a little bit shorter than the rest of this. A lot of times our nape area and our temple area has more fragile type of hair. So because of that, I'm actually just going to surface paint just this bottom area here. Any questions, Lindsay?
No, just a lot of compliments.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna take this, because I just wanna go down in this little area here, I'm just gonna do these ends, and that's just from analyzing the hair. So when you're going through, a lot of times we just want to just keep doing the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, formula 1, formula 2, formula 3, paint by numbers. What I like to do is I really personalize this and analyze each hair as I work in it. So I can also see she has some previous red. Her red that she used to have is much stronger here than it is up at this top here. I just want to highlight this area. Not every strand of hair needs highlighted head to toe. So that's where your artistic interpretation of what you want to do comes into play. So because I'm just looking to do these ends, I'm just going to surface paint and saturate those ends. Just a little bit. Sometimes it's about what you don't paint. We're gonna let that there, and we're done. Easy as that. Okay, I'm still going to protect. So I'm gonna put my film there. Okay, protect that. All right. If you see, I'm gonna be working this way up the head. This hair falls this way, so I'm gonna do all of my angles that way. So again, I'm gonna go in and look at this angle that I'm taking. So see how we have an angle there. We're not doing straight. I'm curving with the head. That's my insurance policy, that I don't have to tease the hair, because I'm creating a curved angle instead of a straight line. And also think about this way too, when I do like my baby light, think about a tease. This is a tease. We're gonna push the hair, okay? And this is what we're looking to create. This is what we're looking to paint. I can do that with my circle weave technique without having to comb this out. This also takes time to comb out. Sometimes it can hurt if a client is tender head. I always suggest for people that do tease, just ask your client first and foremost, are you tender-headed? Because we work in the experience industry, and we want to make sure our client doesn't get just great hair, but they get a great experience. It's not just about the hair. So I'm always thinking about the client comfort as well. Okay, so this is that strand that was really inspiring me. I saw this like poking around the shoulder area. So I want to add some more highlights, more depth, but this is still in that temporal area that I want to leave a little bit darker so her hair looks a little bit thicker. So I'm going to take another curve because I want to leave a veil. I'm going to leave that veil out, and I'm going to paint this. But again, I'm going to start around zone 2, and that just makes this float and makes this look darker in this area. And we are going to do a gloss on her hair. Our gloss is going to be, here I'll show you. Our gloss is going to be 7NC, 9NWB, and 8RR from LumiShine Demi-Liquid. So it's going to create a really beautiful, natural looking red. This is not going to be as strong as a red because this is a level 8. So I'm mixing it with this to kind of create a rose gold effect, and then the 7NC is just going to amp up the copper effect. And what I would do with her, because we're not looking to tone, I'm looking to gloss, I am going to apply that liquid on her, and we're going to process her the full 35 minutes. Okay, so we want to add some highlight in here. We want to start around zone 2. So I'm going to surface paint right in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work down. I'm going to clean that up just a bit. Okay, I have my points here. And then I'm going to work down. So see how this works down in an angle? Okay, not everything has to start at the exact same area. So start it up higher, a little bit lower, a little bit lower. Adding my product through as I work down the head. See my fingers, they don't move. Take my product, apply it here. This is my conversion point. And also see, I'm not using a big brush. I'm using this kind of brush. This is from Famar. And the reason I don't like to use a big brush when I'm doing balayage is the smaller the brush, the more control I have. So I want to maintain control. I can get a big surface area, as you see, without having to use a big brush. Okay, lay that down. Take my balayage film there, just to protect. Okay. All right. We have just a few more minutes here together. Hour always flies by. I'm just going to keep working. You can see the before and afters and all the formulas of this on Joico's Instagram a little bit later. Also on mine. My Instagram is Brandon Corbett Hair. And I am going to post all about this because we will finish her off camera, of course. So I'm going to keep going, but we'll have all the videos and everything for you today for sure. So this is where I'm going to get a little bit higher up with my application. So now we're working into her fringe area. I'm just going to take my comb and just see where it lays. See how this kind of hair lays. All right. Now I'm not looking to make like a solid money piece. I want this to have flow and glow. I want this to complement her face. So instead of really saturating this entire thing, I'm going to do an angle right here. So this lays right, that's where I want it, right in the apple of this cheek, because this one that's going to be a little higher is going to lay over top of it. So she's going to have some depth here and more highlight on top. So it's going to have a more cohesive looking money piece versus one that's really like solid. Okay, going to load up my board here. Here we have this. Also, when working with this, just keep in mind your client and their comfort. I've seen sometimes it's just laying here and they got lightener on their skin. We don't want that, so I'm gonna be very conscious that when I apply this, I'm gonna lay this over top of here for client comfort. So that's not gonna be in her face. Just be very, very conscious of that. So I'm gonna hold this, make sure I'm by the apple of my cheek. I am. I'm going to take a little bit of a bead and we're going to surface paint right here. Right here. And then I'm going to go down further on this side. Okay. Let's do a little cleanup right there. Okay. Holding that off to the side. Then I'm going to saturate those ends there. Saturate, saturate, saturate. Look at that, and then we'll let this rest in this area here. All right. Just gonna take a little bit of a piece here. We don't need a big giant piece, just to protect that. Okay. All right. So what I would do is I'm going to keep working in different angles. I'm going to add a baby light here. I'm going to show you my circle weave, but you see I keep taking these curved partings. These curved partings make everything lived in organically. No one's going to be able to come through and pick up this exact highlight. And that's what I want. I want this so tailor fitted to her hair and to her head shape that no one can copy that. So again, I'm going to take my comb, we're going to hold it like a pen, and we're going to circle underneath, 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 underneath. So I'm going to take this, and you see, I don't even have to take a pre-section. I can do this right off of her scalp and create her baby light here. Okay, this is just looking to add a little bit of interior glow. So I'm going to take my Blonde Life Lightening Powder in 5 volume, and I'm going to saturate this area. Keeping it away from the scalp and that previous, or the base color that's already on there. Okay. Just for a little baby light. Okay. Let that lay over there. Just grab my film.
And you would continue the same thing up the opposite side as well, right?
Yes, so what I will do is I will work up the opposite side and finish both sides with her. So that's what I'm gonna do since our time is running out. An hour goes by so fast.
Really quickly.
I'll just get my balayage film here in just a second. Oh, I just gotta fix my film here real quick. All right, here we go. All right, so I'm gonna place this here just to protect her hair. All right, so just to recap, Kate here came in, she already had a base of regrowth growing out and then lots of previous color. So we went through with our LumiShine 5 NRG and 5 NW with 10 volume. We did her base color, and that's just gonna create a really natural looking depth of red in her hair. Then we're going through with our balayage powder and with our Blonde Life Lightning Powder, doing baby lights, and we're doing balayage in different angles. We're curving, everything's curved to the head. This is working up this way, and this is working up this way. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna continue working, finish this section here, do the rest of her hair. Then we're gonna process her till she reaches about a level 8. I don't need her to be super high up. We're just looking to make her around a level 8. Afterwards, we're going to process. After that, we're gonna shampoo, condition, and then this will be her gloss. We're gonna shampoo her, we're gonna put this gloss on, we'll process her for a full 35 minutes, finish her with Defy Damage ProSeries 2 for 5 minutes, just to rebuild the bonds and re-strengthen her hair, and then we'll blow her out and give her a beautiful finish. So I'm gonna do that now, finish everything up. We'll have the before, during, and after for you on Joico's Instagram and mine at Brandon Corbett Hair. Hope you had a really great Wednesday with me. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Joico, for having me, and we'll see you all soon.